Welcome back to Wellness to Greatness. Today's episode is such an important conversation, especially for women who are constantly caring everything for everyone else. You know the woman who looks like she has it all together on the outside? She's capable, responsible, dependable, high achieving, the one everyone leans on. But internally, she feels exhausted, overwhelmed, disconnected from herself, and probably snapping more than she liked to on her people that she loves. And no matter how much she accomplishes, it never feels quite enough. If that sounds familiar, this conversation is going to hit deeply. Today, I'm joined with Leann Herron. Leann is a certified life and holistic health coach, founder of Finding Resilience with Leann, and host of the Happiness on Tap podcast. Leann works primarily with women, especially midlife women, caregivers, helpers, healers, and service professionals who appear strong and put together externally while silently struggling with emotional exhaustion, burnout, and survival mode internally. So in this part one of this conversation, we unpack the hidden pressure so many women live under every single day. We talk about the emotional weight of always being the strong one, chronic overfunctioning and invisible burnout, people-pleasing and perfectionism, and trying to feel that sense of self-worth through productivity. And this episode will also benefit you if you ever felt like you're constantly doing but never truly resting. You're emotionally carrying everyone around you, and you may look successful on the outside but feel depleted underneath it all. And also, if you feel like you've been normalizing survival mode for so long that you don't even know what calm feels like anymore. This conversation is validating, eye-opening, and deeply human because burnout doesn't always look like falling apart. Sometimes it looks like functioning while silently drowning underneath the surface. So let's dive in. Why do so many high achieving women look successful on the outside, but secretly feel exhausted, disconnected, or emotionally overwhelmed? And maybe tell us a little bit of a story too of how you can deeply relate to that.
Absolutely. I think because so many high achieving women have been conditioned to equate their worth with what they produce, provide, and hold together. So from the outside, they may often appear successful, accomplished in their careers, thriving families, leadership roles, community involvement. We're all over the place. But internally, many are carrying this invisible emotional labor that just never shuts off.
Mm.
And that exhaustion, it usually is not caused by weakness. It's caused by chronic overfunctioning. So for myself, I definitely did that. I was climbing the corporate ladder while trying to provide for my children, trying to be there for everyone and do all these things, be there for my friends anytime they'd call and ask for time that we could be together. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I got to take the kids here and take the kids here and always show up at work with my face on and my hair done and act like I had it all together, and not wanting people to know what was really going on under the surface. Because what I found is that when you allowed yourself to be vulnerable and maybe share that with a coworker or a supervisor, it wasn't well accepted. It was almost like, what's wrong with you?
Mm.
Like you're just expected to constantly be on all the time. And a lot of high achieving women just learn early that we're supposed to be the responsible one. We're supposed to anticipate everyone's needs. We're supposed to push through stress. And so we don't learn how to not be that way.
What was it that you described yourself? High functioning, but also
Chronic overfunctioning.
yes, that one. The over functioner. Oh my God, you're speaking my language, girl. And I grew up with a mother who is an over functioner. It's almost like she had to have her fingers and toes and all the part in everyone's things. And it was out of a place of love, but also a sense of her worth. She had a hard time saying no. It was always yes, 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 yes. I'll do it. I'll do it. Do it. And that has brought her a lot of success in life. That has actually made her well recognized in the community, in her family, in her friendships, in her relationships, even how I view her. But I saw the other side, like what you described, like in person, you had like this mask, like this, making it look like you had everything put together. But I lived in the house with her, so I knew it wasn't working for her. And I started basically mimicking that sense of behavior as well. And now a part of me is like, it's okay, Janelle, because it made you a rock star. You were brave and you did all these things. But was I also really hard on myself? Was I a perfectionist? Was I had a hard time connecting with certain people along the road because I was afraid to be vulnerable? Yes, 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 and yes. And eventually it leads you to like a sense of burnout, right? And so thank you for sharing that. And tell me a little bit more like when you realized that that way of living didn't work for you anymore, wasn't serving anymore.
I didn't realize it, I think, early enough. I wish I would have realized it a lot earlier in life because, like you, I witnessed my mom put on one face every day to go out into the world and this image that she portrayed. But I was also like you, that child that within those four walls, I saw the opposite side. I saw the woman that didn't have it all together. I saw the woman who would lose control and act out. But at the same time, there was this air in the air of she had this fear that somebody was going to find out outside our walls what was not going on. And so she used to search me as a child when I would go to school to make sure I wasn't writing notes to my friends about what was actually going on within our four walls.
Wow. Wow.
Um, and all that really showed me was how to walk on eggshells, put on a face, and not trust myself or my children also. It was this behavior that was so learned growing up. And I always did those same things. I was there for everyone. I was there for my friends. I was there for my children. I don't remember ever missing a day in my son's life from birth to 18. Like,
Wow.
I didn't travel. I didn't travel for work. I was always home. I was always there. Um, and I was also the star employee who would go in at 4 o'clock in the morning and stay until 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And I didn't realize the damage I was doing to myself until my body said, okay, you've done too much for too long.
Mhm.
And now we're going to slow you down, whether you want to or not.
Yes. And so I know a little bit about your story, and when you were living this way, it eventually it really it led to divorce, right? And do you feel like that way of living is part of the reason why things didn't work out, or was that something completely separate? I'm just curious how it affected your relationships, around you.
Well, the way that I know that it affected my relationships, and especially in that marriage, was that I was raised to take care of everyone else, always
Hmm.
put them first. I was also raised to be seen and not heard, not have a voice, not have an opinion. Um, I always believed I could fix the other person sitting across from me. So, fix my husband, change him in some way. I was also led to believe that you had to stay in the there was no
Yeah.
leaving, there was no getting out of the marriage. So all of those things came with different emotions, feelings, beliefs, identity. Like, I couldn't leave the marriage. I would be a failure. I couldn't take care of myself. That would be selfish. So all of those things just compounded over time
Hmm.
to thinking I had to be a perfectionist. I had to be the power mom. I had to do all these things so that on the external, I looked like I had it all together.
Yeah.
And I never learned how to let down that wall. I didn't want other people to see how much I was breaking inside or feeling like a failure.
Mm. Yeah. That is so hard. And I feel too that there has been moments in my relationship with my husband where I thought we were done, and but as a overfunctioner myself, I recognized that enabled certain behaviors of how my husband would speak to me and show up, and same with my kids. And once I was able to take accountability for how I was showing up, it really helped. And again, it takes two to tango, like you can make all the changes in the world, but if your partner is not prepared or what has already been really damaged, that is different. I'm not saying that it wasn't repairable, but what I have found to be true is that once I made this decision to say, I will no longer tolerate X, Y, and Z for my relationship or my children and set those healthy boundaries. And because they were on board with it, they loved me just as equally and they wanted change. And when I say they, more so my husband, because my kids were too young to really understand it. Um, that's when things shifted for us. But I could see that being a very difficult situation if your partner's not on board, you know? Um, but I want to say that's very brave of you to come on the other side of it now and seeing things differently and doing the work on you. And we've chatted before too, and we are talking about yoga and your experiences like with that and meditation and breath work. And is that what you do because you know what it feels like and you found your way out of it? So you help other women like yourself who are going through big transitions in their life, where whether it's retirement, death in the family, divorce, and they are feeling shame about it when shouldn't have to. This is just part of the process. Is that why you're in this world and helping those type of women?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I think, what we do, what you and I do to help women, is because we've come through these life experiences. And it's not necessarily to say, I don't want you to repeat my behaviors or the things that I experienced, but I do want to share my story in a way that people can resonate or not feel alone in what they're experiencing or not feel shame in what they're going through. And maybe to show them that there is another path or that there is hope, or maybe how I went into things saying like, okay, I'm going to change because you don't want to change. Um, and seeing where that kind of direction came as well in our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Towards the end of our marriage, in fact, the last 10 years of our marriage, he had become addicted to opiates from pain management.
Wow.
And the addiction was greater than anything because I had finally realized that I couldn't fix him. I couldn't change him. I couldn't help him. He needed to want to do those things for himself. But
Mm-hmm.
I had invested so much of myself into thinking I could fix him. I could change him. All I knew at that point was that I needed to focus on me as well, because I had been focusing on him for so long that I wasn't focusing on me at all. And I had hoped that as I started to take care of myself, as I started to exercise, as I started to eat better, that he would see those changes and kind of want to jump on board. But when I realized that that wasn't going to happen, that I needed to just continue to take care of myself
Mm.
as opposed to continue to stay and enable him to not take care of himself.
Yes, that is such a powerful distinction. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope he finds resolution to the challenge that he's facing with his behavior to addiction to opioids. That is not an easy place to be. And it can be a very lonely process, right? Um, and I think that is one of the hardest, like, well, when you, as an overfunctioner, at the beginning of my relationships and several, what I noticed a pattern for myself is that I would try to fix my partner. I would see the potential in them and I would try to fix them. Also, I noticed, and I'm just being very vulnerable here, this is so uncomfortable to admit this out loud, but I felt like a lot of times they were part of the problem to what I was dealing with. So if they had a behavior to addiction to something, like whether it's smoking or whatever, usually I would kind of join in because I would feel like I didn't have the willpower to stop. But if they stopped, I would stop. You know, if they did this, I would do this. So I'm going to put the focus outside of me and try to heal them, you know? And what I recognize to be true now is that if they want to do the dang work, you got to start on yourself first. And eventually they're going to be like, I want some of that. Like whatever she's taking, I want that. But if they have no desire or they're just not ready, you know, or they show that they're not going to do it at all, we, like you said, we can't change them. We can only change ourselves. So I have to say, I've been on that side where I had to make decisions for myself, and it feels very lonely, feels uncomfortable. And especially if you don't have the support or they can't see the direction you're going, that is hard and it's brave that you're able to do that. And now you can replicate that and help other women out there who feel the same way. And they're trying to do this, but it feels very lonely. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. It's our story that helps us help others. Like I said, if it's just them hearing that they're not alone in their situation, or that they're seeing that there is hope, or that there is something on the other side, if they should make those changes on their own, that they have to leave, whether even if it's a career and not necessarily a marriage, but maybe a toxic workplace. We get so ingrained in thinking we have to stay. And that's where I was as well. When I finally told myself, I have to leave this for my own mental health and
Mm-hmm.
physical health. But inside, I was battling the this is my worth. Like, I went to college for this. I got a degree to do this. This is the most money I've ever made. But what was it doing to me? It was destroying me day by day. And so, I think it's just being able to see through the clouds and see that there is possibility on the other side. So that's what I hope I instill in others, that there is hope, there is possibility. We're not stuck, we're not doomed, we're not locked in, that we do have choice and we can make changes.
Yes, exactly. Nothing is set in stone. And if something was ingrained in stonework on the wall, then you could smash it and restart it. That's what I say. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, okay. So, can you tell me why, like, what do women often misunderstand about burnout, anxiety, or overwhelm, whichever your choice, especially ambitious women like us who are always trying to like hold it together and create this mirage that everything looks okay on the outside, but really we're struggling on the inside. So what do they misunderstand about burnout? What does that look like?
I think a lot of it is that we see it as a failure
Mm.
somehow on our part, that we failed in something that caused this burnout, versus uh, learning how to listen to our bodies in a way that's healthy and vulnerable. But I think we go to the shame and the guilt and all of those things, and so we see it from a completely different perspective of more failure than the option for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's definitely was the case for me, as I saw it as failures or as selfish. Should I need to take that time for myself? You shared a great story with me uh, when we were talking about taking a bubble bath and
Yeah.
just saying that I, I just, I deserve this, giving ourselves permission. And I think that that's one of those misunderstandings is that if we give ourselves permission to take a pause, take care of ourselves, take a bubble bath, spend time in nature, spend time grounding, that we're being selfish because we should be taking care of everyone else. So that's probably one of my biggest things that I think a lot of high achieving women see is as a misunderstanding.
Yeah. It's when you brought that up about the bubble bath, and I was telling that story of my son walking in and being like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you doing that?" Because that's something I don't do often. And I also thought of other things that I don't do often, but it is self-soothing and it feels good to me, where they'll question me, like, why do you do that? So like when they see me jump on a laptop and I look like I'm concentrating, they know I'm working. If they see me doing dishes, they know I have to get it done, or cooking dinner, they know it has to get done. They don't ask me, why are you doing that? They see me doing that all this every day, all the time. But if they see me go outside barefoot and stand in mud, taking deep breaths, they're like, huh? What are you doing? And I realize what they recognize as norm and what isn't normal. And if that's when I say, and you are starting to do this with your grandson, you were talking about this when we were in our chat, is that we try to show them by example things that we could do to help regulate our nervous system and bringing awareness around it. And it might seem unusual, but if we do more of it, these little ones in our life will then recognize, oh, that is normal. But instead, what we're doing, the busyness, the hustle, the coping strategies with doom scrolling and alcohol and or vaping or binge eating and not eating, whatever it is, it's it's showing them what they think is to be normalized. So I really liked what you shared. And since my audience is moms with young kids, can you talk a little bit on some of the things that you were doing with your grandson? I thought that was really beautiful.
Absolutely. One of the things that I love to practice with him when he comes over is take off your shoes. It's not take off your shoes because you're going to bring dirt or allergens into the house. It's take off your shoes because I want you to connect with the earth.
Mm.
I want you to feel the ground under your feet. I want you to receive that beautiful energy that we receive from connecting with the earth. So we'll take off our shoes, we'll go outside, we'll walk around in my grass, we'll play in the dirt with my plants, we'll talk to my plants, we'll have conversations, we'll sit and listen to the birds. So we'll decide to just sit down in the grass and listen to all the different birds or see the squirrel run across the wall. When we come inside, we love to color. That's one of my favorite things to do. And I love when he comes over, he doesn't have his cell phone, but he still has this like weird addiction to, oh, let me show you. And he'll reach for my phone. And I'm like, no, 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 we're not doing that. This is
Mhm.
our time to be present with each other. There's not going to be cell phones. We're not going to be watching YouTube and doing all these things. We're just going to do things that are going to bring us joy and happiness. And so whether that's going outside and splashing in the water after it rains, or standing in the rain,
I
or
love that.
coloring in a coloring book and coloring outside the lines, or I recently started to teach him how to use a singing bowl. He had never experienced, and he loves music. Like he has a keyboard and he loves music, but I wanted to show him that there's different sounds and how different vibrations come off of things. So I just like anything that we can do that is outside that normal. It's not binge watching. It's not getting stuck scrolling on your phone, seeing what things coming up next. It's doing shadow animals in the car while we wait for something to open. We find a spot where the sun's coming in the window and we can goof around and make shadow animals. I don't want him to to not get to experience these things that brought me joy as a child, while also drawing on what brings him joy.
Yes. And like the other day, I forgot my phone and we went to the park and then it ended up being this like big carnival thing. And it was someone's birthday party, carnival theme. And my kids really wanted to go play in the bouncy house. And I was like, I don't know if we're allowed to be here. And it so happened that the father of the birthday boy was standing right there. And he says, oh, yeah, come on in. There's plenty for everyone. So, I would have let him just go on and play and I would be periodically checking my phone or something. But it was actually quite nice to not have my phone with me because then I was able to see all the moments, all the that they were experiencing. And my daughter came down the slide and she jumped off and she started running. And I think her hair got caught in her over her eyes. And she like went right into like this cord that was stabilizing a rope that was stabilizing the castle. And she went boom, boom to the ground. And I know I shouldn't be laughing, but it was funny. And like this, because she bounced back up, you're like, I'm fine. And she kept running, right? But for a moment there, I was like, I wish I had my phone so I could have recorded that. That was great. But then I realized you probably wouldn't have captured that moment if you had your phone with you. So just take it in, have a good laugh about it. And but yeah, we were so overconsumed with our phones, especially the young ones. And it happens often. My son's like, can you Google this and find me a video because I want to learn about it? And yes, it's educational, but maybe we go find a book at the library instead, or, like try to change it up a bit instead of always watching these videos, right? So, and these are really great tips for a woman who has grandchildren. So thank you for sharing that. I find the coloring and the kinetic sand art, oh my God, is so good. I wait, like it's less messy than some of the other things. Doesn't dry out like Play-Doh. I love the kinetic sand. Even for myself, sometimes I'll secretly play with it.
Mhm.
So you talk a lot about resilience and the nervous system awareness, especially for women who are going through a big transition. So that could be, as we mentioned before, like empty nesters, widows, or new career or retirement. So, what was a moment you realized mindset work alone wasn't enough for you? And when you started to explore other things?
I think for me, it was the joy of the curiosity. It was learning about other things that are available to me that I didn't even know existed.
Mm.
And it kind of goes back to that just hustle culture of being on all the time and going and doing and doing and doing more and more and more, that I didn't know that all of these wonderful modalities even existed. I didn't know about sound healing and getting to experience a sound bath. And I
Mm.
got to go and experience one where the lady who was teaching the sound bath was hosting it in a yoga studio that had hammocks hanging from the
Oh,
ceiling.
huh.
And so you could crawl inside a hammock and they would bring you a blanket and you could wrap in this blanket and you could just float and enjoy this sound bath. And you weren't grounded to, but you could feel the vibration in the air and the vibration from the person next to you. And so for me, it wasn't necessarily realizing the mindfulness wasn't enough, but it was realizing that there was so much more out there that was available to me, and how exciting it was to experience all these new modalities,
Mm.
and that I could at any time pick and choose the modality that my body was needing. And so that's where that awareness piece came in, was what I may need at this point is very different from what I may need at another point. So, if I'm really, really anxious, I can utilize certain tools like orienting myself to time and space, and where am I sitting in a piece of art on the wall, or being in nature and going outside and saying, I'm going to find all of the yellow flowers in the neighborhood. And so it's just, for me, it was just this excitement of learning that these modalities existed and how I could utilize it.
Mm, yes. And I'm going to pick your brain about that in our second part of the video because I'm sure a lot of our listeners are curious and like, okay, teach me some of those frameworks and tools. But before we get there, I have one more question to ask you about sound bowls. I got to experience this a few times. And once I was pregnant, and so I couldn't sit still, lay down the whole time. So I think the hammock would have been really nice. I wish I had that option. But the other times, when I wasn't pregnant, but what I had noticed is certain sounds didn't agree with me. It like vibrated certain parts of my body where I felt restless or frustrated or angry. And then other parts where I felt almost like excited, like it was exciting parts of me. Um, whether it was an arousal or just feeling a sense of like zealous, you know? But can you explain more about that? Like what does that mean? Like what is happening there? Because I don't not everyone knows what sound bowls are.
And I can reach behind me, actually. I keep one close by.
Yes.
So this is just one of my smaller sound bowls.
Mm-hmm.
And I have all different sizes, but the one thing that's important to know is they all have a different frequency.
Yes.
So they all don't sound the same. So you can have 10 different sound bowls and be surrounded by them, and they all hold a different frequency. And we are frequency.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember we are mostly water. And so each of those vibrations is going to react differently within our body. And what I learned to realize was on those ones that felt uncomfortable, that it was usually trying to tell me something, that there was something there that frequency was trying to help release.
Okay.
And so for me, that was kind of this awareness that I learned through like somatic work and meditation and yoga and all these different modalities. One thing they taught me was how to do a body inventory. So how to be able to lay down and go through from the top of my head down to my feet and feel where my body was holding on to tension.
Mm-hmm.
And learning that I had tools like breath work to release that tension and I could focus. For me, it was very visual. Like I would give my breath a color and I would see that color as it would go in through my nose and down through my body into that place where maybe there was tension that I was holding. And learning how to release that tension into the earth, into the ground below me, out through my feet, whatever that was. But with the sound bowls was I learned to be aware of what those feelings were, the ones that made me feel elated, the ones that made me feel excited or aroused, versus the ones that felt very uncomfortable, like remembering where did that feel uncomfortable? Did that feel uncomfortable in my heart? Did that feel uncomfortable in my chest? Uncomfortable in my throat? Where does that feel uncomfortable? And what is that trying to tell me?
Mm. I have a massage client that loves listening to I think they call it Hertz, Hertz
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sound waves. Now, is that pretty similar to the singing bowl frequencies? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So it's like something that you can even practice in your own home, like having variety of different bowls. And that's really interesting. And I also, what I've been reading more about it, it shows that it could actually change in a scientific perspective, it could change the activation on a cellular level. So the frequencies can help healing or blockages. And so the way I like to think of it, and let me know if I'm offbeat, is it's like if you have an excess amount in an area, maybe that's where you feel like overstimulated from it. And and the areas where maybe you don't feel as much is like trying to rebalance it, increase it. The Does that make sense what I'm saying? I'm not sure if I'm making sense. So let's say
Yeah.
you lack a voice, you have a hard time speaking out. You may not feel the sense of wanting to scream or yell because you're already deficient in energy frequency there. So, but you may feel like it's blocked and something is waking up and opening in that area, like almost like you have a frog in your throat, like, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Hmm. For me, it was always my voice that would be out.
Mm.
So, one thing I learned how to do was use a pendulum to read my body to see where I was out or where I was in balance. And almost every time it was always around my neck, my voice. And so it was like, okay, I know that I was raised to be seen and not heard. I don't know how to use my voice. I don't know how to speak up for myself.
Mm.
So it just kind of helped give me something that I could almost visually see and say, oh, okay, so there's something here that's out of balance because the pendulum is swinging in one direction, but everywhere else it's swinging in this direction. And so it's
Right.
like just a way to learn to listen, another type of awareness of our body, and that our body is made up of energy, water, vibration. And so it was just, I think it's learning these different skills and modalities so that we learn to pay more attention. And another thing that I learned from using a pendulum, which I learned through an herbalist, was how to use my pendulum to determine which supplements my body was actually needing that day. Because
Wow.
when you start doing this work, you start thinking, oh, and I need omegas and I need ashwagandha and I need, you start thinking you need all of these things. And I'm not one that likes to take a lot of pills. I
Mm.
like to definitely be minimalistic. And so I could open up all the bottles and use the pendulum and ask the pendulum or the energy force around me, what does my body need today?
Wow.
And it would swing one direction if I needed to take it, and it would swing another direction if I didn't need to take it.
Yes.
And trusting that it's going to have your best interest
Yeah.
at heart.
I I think I think too is that we talked about this before in another chat, but like our body is very it's very how would you say this? It's beautifully crafted. Like, whatever, how, who, what made us, like it's very complex. But we are made to be able to connect to ourselves and other things around us. So like this chair, these curtains, the trees outside, all made of energy just like us. So whether you believe in have a specific religion or not, I think we were crafted in a way to intuitively connect outside of ourselves, knowing what is right and what is wrong. Now, I think when you are deeply connected to yourself, you can sense, like, for example, I have food sensitivities and I can pick up a plate and know that there's something not right here. There's something in here that's not going to agree with me. But meanwhile, I'm looking at it and I don't see anything in particular that I'm sensitive to. But for some reason, my body knows it before I do. And I eat it, and sure enough, I have bloating or upset stomach, or I feel a little nauseous, or maybe I was sick to begin with, and maybe eating a big plate of food wasn't going to be helpful. Whatever it is, I choose to ignore those signals. And so, going back to the pendulum that you were using, it could be energetic flow of ourselves being transmitted through it. So our body knows what does and doesn't agree with them. And it might just be a tool to help us engage to what it is, to try to speak of what it is that our body needs that moment, whether it's over vitamins. And I've heard of this before through a modality called body talk, where they had these little like not potion bottles, but like little glass bottles. You can't see what's inside it, labeled it with a color. And they would have the person hold it in one hand. And the practitioners would say, can you please resist my pressure while they try to push their arm down. And then if the arm wasn't able to resist, and they most likely have some sort of allergy or like sensitivity or something in it was wouldn't agree with them. So if some of you are listening and you're thinking, oh, this might be a little too wooey for me, just get curious, man. Get curious because you hear God being an energetic, light and all powerful and in everything. Well, when you break ourselves down to energy, it's light and all powerful, and so it's in everything that you're looking at, the air that you breathe. So I think it's worth being open minded and not so black and white about things.
Yeah, that
And
was huge for me. Huge was just that curiosity. So from herbs and learning which herbs were more calming or which herbs would do different things for my cycle, or whatever the case may be, was just having this curiosity and trusting in this plant from nature.
yes,
And then I learned about kinesiology and, like you were talking about, muscle testing, and just being open to it, not being closed minded to believe that there are things that can tell us more about ourselves that we're not aware of. And so that's where I just started my path. Started first with working with an herbalist, then working with kinesiology, then hypnotherapy, meditation, yoga. And for me, it was all just curiosity and this excitement to learn all these different things.
I love that. And the thing is, if you believe that something's not going to work for you, it's most likely not going to. And so sometimes it's just going there with a neutral mind. Like just go see if it works and don't have judgment about it or if it's going to work or not. Just and that's the thing, there's so many different modalities out there because it's some things are just not for others, but you don't know until you give it a shot, you know? And that was my same thing when I got Reiki done the first time. I was like, what? Energies, chakras? What the heck is this? But then I loved it so much that, like, after I became a massage therapist, I realized I need to protect myself. I'm very science-backed believer. Like my parents are nurses. So I need the facts, I need the studies. But when I started massaging, I started feeling my clients' pain when they walk in the door. I'm like, do you have a migraine right here? And it's pulsating and reflecting your shoulder. Like, yeah. I'm like, fudge, I have it too. Because I was absorbing all their stuff. And then I would bring it home and I would feel like I had a film of yuckiness on my skin. So the point is I ended up going into taking Reiki level 1 and 2 so that I could protect myself. And was it a real thing? I don't know, but I could tell you, I don't feel their pain anymore. So if it was placebo, it was a damn good placebo pill. Leann, thank you so much for this conversation and for sharing so openly and honestly today. I know so many women listening are going to recognize themselves in this episode, especially the women who have spent years being the dependable one, the strong one, the one who keeps functioning no matter how overwhelmed they feel internally. One thing I hope listeners take away from today is this: just because you become good at surviving doesn't mean you are meant to live in survival mode forever. So many women normalize exhaustion because it becomes familiar, but constantly overfunctioning, emotional caring everyone else, and disconnecting from yourself isn't sustainable. Even in the world praises you for it. Awareness is where healing begins. And in part 2, we're going to deeper into what resilience looks like beyond burnout. And we'll talk more about healing patterns, reconnecting with yourself, nervous system regulation, and how to begin creating a life that feels grounded instead of constantly overwhelming. So make sure you come back next week on Wednesday for part 2. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with a woman in your life who may need this reminder that she doesn't have to carry everything alone. And if this sounds like you, contact me on Wellness to Greatness with the word burnout, and I will loop you in on tools and how to manage this and be surrounded by like-minded women who feel deeply disconnected with themselves. and they just want to get unstuck, not feel like they're constantly on the go, and feel present, grounded, and emotionally resilient. Thank you so much for listening to Wellness to Greatness, and I'll see you in the next episode.